3 weeks ago, I had mentioned that since there's 3 weeks left, we were going to talk about the month of Ramadan. The very first week, we talked about what is the objective of the month of Ramadan. Last week, we talked about the spiritual aspect of Ramadan, Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, and how he explains that there are 3 different categories of people when it comes to Ramadan. Today, inshallah, we're talking about some of the fiqh aspects of the month of Ramadan. Now, I'm not going to be discussing zakat at all. So this is just regarding the fiqh of Ramadan, and there are usually many questions that people ask related to the subject of Ramadan, and I want to answer some of those key questions. First of all, when it comes to suhoor, one of the questions that many people they ask is that why is there a discrepancy between the calendars in the area? They go to one masjid, there's one calendar that says that imsak time is a certain particular time, and then they look at another calendar and they ask that the time on that calendar, the other calendar, is almost, there's like a 15 to 20 minute of a gap. So which one is correct? Is it this one or that one? And this really boils down to the well-known difference of opinion, which is the 18-degree methodology versus the 15-degree methodology. And though both of these opinions are very valid, there are many scholars who have their own opinions about this particular matter. But the reality is, and if you have never understood what does 15 degrees and 18 degrees mean. So the ikhtilaf has always been that imagine this is the horizon. This is the horizon. This is the east, this is the west. If the sun rises from here and sets over here. So the question is, when the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon, is that when Fajr starts? Or when the sun comes a little more ahead and is 15 degrees below the horizon, is that when Fajr time begins? And that is why the ikhtilaf has always been there, that what is this? So that is why, if you think about it, if you follow the 18-degree methodology, that means that Fajr time comes in earlier, okay? It comes in earlier. And if you follow the 15-degree methodology, then Fajr time comes in a little later. You understand? 15 degrees is usually the latest that you will find on all the Islamic calendars, especially in America and Texas. So here at Epic, we follow the 15-degree methodology. Now, having said that, if you have to decide amongst your family members that which one you want to follow, if you want to follow the Epic calendar, you can follow that. But if you choose to say that, you know what, though I go to Epic, but I want to follow the 18-degree methodology, then that's absolutely fine also. I don't think that it should become a major point of contention in the families. Now, if you talk to many of the ulama, they would tell you, and there is no doubt in this, the 18-degree is a more safer option. There's no question about that. The 18-degree is more safer. And the 15 degrees, if a person says, let's just say, I think on the very first day, fasting will begin approximately at, so if the first day of fasting, according to the 15-degree methodology, starts at 5:47, for example. Now, if a person says, can I eat all the way to 5:47, according to the 15-degree methodology, is 5:47. Can I eat all the way to 5:47? The answer is yes, you can eat at 5:47. Till 5:47 you can eat. But as soon as it hits 5:47, then you have to stop. Now, there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that one time he had suhoor with the Prophet ﷺ, and then after that the Prophet ﷺ prayed Salatul Fajr. And someone asked Zayd bin Thabit later on that was there a gap between the time of suhoor, the ending of suhoor, and you prayed Fajr with the Prophet ﷺ, and he says that there was a gap of the time that it would take you to recite 50 verses of the Quran. That's all that Zayd bin Thabit said. Now, 50 verses of the Quran, what are we talking about? Short verses of the Quran, semi-long verses of the Quran, or medium length verses of the Quran, longer, wallahu alam. But they say that it might be 10 minutes, perhaps. So now many people would say that if the suhoor time says 5:47, then you must stop 10 minutes before that. And this is something that was, is quite mainstream. That this idea that if whatever time says on your calendar, you must stop 5 to 10 minutes before that. There's no place in our deen that says you must do that. That is if you want to be on the more safer side. If you say that it says 5:47 and I'm going to start fasting, I'm going to do complete imsak at 5:42, then you do that. And that is the more safer option. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to take it all the way to 5:47, that's absolutely perfectly fine too. So that is the very first question that many people have asked. And the next question that many people ask is that what if I wake up at the time of suhoor and there's not enough time to eat and I find myself in the state of junub? I require a ghusl. They require a ghusl to become clean and to become pure and tahir. Then what should I do? So in that particular situation, you take your suhoor quickly because you need your suhoor and the nourishment. But at the same time, you can start your fast in the state of junub, but you cannot pray salat until you don't take a shower. So yes, it is allowed to start your fasting in that way. And if later on you take a ghusl and then you will pray your salat. What if you are sleeping in the state of fasting and then, for example, a person experiences a wet dream, for example? Then in that case, your fasting is not nullified. You simply will take a ghusl and you'll pray your salat whenever the next salat comes in. Now, during the fasting in itself, there are many questions that I'm going to quickly go through, and I'm not going to go through all the dala'il, all the proofs. I'm just going to quickly go through questions and answers, inshallah. If someone eats or drinks something forgetfully while they're fasting, of course their fasting does not break. What happens if a person vomits during fasting? If that vomit is induced, okay, if that vomit is induced, meaning that you are forcing that vomit, then that will break your fast. If you are not inducing that vomit, then it will not break your fast. Let's just say you find yourself in a situation that you had, mashallah, an all-star suhoor, okay? An all-star suhoor and a buffet and so forth. And now you're experiencing indigestion and so forth, and you just feel like you have to get something out because you cannot just maintain that fast, then if you need to vomit, you vomit. According to many ulama, that's not considered as self-inducing. You understand? But yes, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're going and you are overloading in the time of suhoor. The next thing is that can you apply eye drops, ear drops, and nasal drops in the state of fasting? The answer is eye drops, absolutely yes. Ear drops, there should not be a problem. Although the canal, that's why, when you talk about doctors, they're called ENTs. Ears, nose, and throat. They're all connected. The passages are connected. So ears, still, even though the passage is connected, it should not be a problem. But as far as the nasal is concerned, try to stay away from that as much as you can in the state of fasting. Does smoking break the fast? If a person has a habit of smoking, does smoking break the fast? Absolutely, it does break the fast. Can a person take an injection during fasting as long as it is considered as non-nutritionist? Okay, if it is providing to you, if it's providing nutrition to you, then that will break the fast. And if it does not provide any kind of nutrition to you, then it is no problem. A lot of times people are taking different injections. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So just want to make that clear. Can a person use toothpaste and mouthwash in the state of fasting? The answer is, now in this there are going to be some different opinions. The more conservative approach is no, but overall the majority of scholars, they say that it is absolutely fine as long as you do not digest and you do not intake anything. So that is why if you feel like that, if you're going to use mouthwash, first of all, try to just stay away from mouthwash completely. If you're fasting, use miswak. If you want to use a toothbrush, you can use a toothbrush. If you want to use toothpaste, then use toothpaste, but make sure you spit out everything, you don't intake anything. What about bleeding? If you experience a nosebleed during fasting, does that break your fast? No. What if, does cupping break fasting? Now there is a hadith of Prophet ﷺ that says that the cupper and the cupped, meaning that the person who is giving the hajama and the person who is receiving the hajama, both of their fasting has been broken. However, there are many ulama who say, in fact, there is even a hadith of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anh mentioned in Darul, that where he would himself would get cupping while he was in the state of fasting, and he would continue his fasting. So there's nothing wrong with that. Cupping, as you all know, is drawing blood. They put cups, suction cups on you, and they draw the dirty blood from your body. Along the same lines, if you want to withdraw blood, there is absolutely nothing wrong in doing that in the state of fasting. Does inhaling smoke or perfume break the fast? If you do it intentionally, like let's just say someone lit up a bukhur and now it's coming to you unintentionally, and it gets in, you're inhaling it, it does not break the fast. Likewise, perfume, you can inhale, you can smell perfume, it will not break the fast. However, some scholars, they do say that if you actually go to any smoke and you are inhaling it intentionally, then that will break the fast, especially if enough goes into your system that is getting into your throat and your esophagus area, then that will nullify your fasting. Next, of course, a very simple one. Is it allowed to rinse your mouth and nose in the state of fasting? Yes, you can, but try to do it without any kind of exaggeration. You know, there are people who, while in the state of fasting, or even in general, without the state of fasting, when they make wudu, they usually put water in their mouth and then they go, oh, they do that kind of stuff, right? In the state of wudu, state of fasting, stay away from that, okay, completely. Another question that many people often come up with is, what do I do when there are different apps? If I have different apps and one says Fajr time begins at this time, and then there's another app on my phone that says Fajr starts probably another minute later, which one should I follow? The rule of thumb is, when it comes to Fajr, if you have multiple apps on your phone and there's a difference by 1 or 2 minutes, always go with the one that is the earliest. Okay? Go with the one that's the earliest. And the rule for Maghrib is you always go with the latest one. You understand? So if there's 1 or 2 minutes, you go with the one that is the last time that is mentioned. That is what you go with in the state where you're using your apps. Donating blood, as I said, or undergoing any kind of blood test, you can continue your fasting. If you're fasting, can you take a shower or a bath? Absolutely, you can take a bath or a shower. Can you chew gum? Absolutely not. You cannot be chewing gum in the state of fasting. However, someone did ask me that, can we use nicotine patches in the month of Ramadan? The answer is yes. There's nothing wrong in using nicotine patches in the state of fasting. Can you use an asthma inhaler while in the state of fasting? Though there are some Hanafi ulama who are against it, they say that it will break your fast, but yet the contemporary ulama and the contemporary fatwa do say that it will not break your fast. Okay? If you can stay away from it, stay away from it, but if you absolutely need it, then you can use it and it will not break your fast. Does swallowing phlegm or mucus break your fast? Absolutely not. It will not break your fast. In the state of fasting, can you take an anesthetic injection? Yes, you can. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that before surgery, because it is not considered as nutritionist. It does not provide any kind of nutritional value. Can a fasting person, take any kind of suppositories? The answer is yes. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Can a fasting person take hormonal injections? The answer is yes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, regarding any kind of exemptions in fasting, can someone who is sick skip their fasting? Yes, they can skip their fasting if the fasting will cause them more pain or more harm, or will intensify their sickness. Then they are required to stop their fasting and make it up some other day. Now, the next one is something that comes to me often and we think that it is a very easy answer, but it does require some explanation. Are women going through pregnancy or breastfeeding, can they skip fasting? The answer is they can be given an exemption. However, there are many ulama who say that they should only stay away from fasting if it is absolutely needed. There are many women going through pregnancy, they can fast, then you should fast in the month of Ramadan and not try to make it up later on. There was a sister who came to me, she said that for the last 4 years, either she was in the state of pregnancy or she was in the state of breastfeeding. In that case, she said that I have not fasted in those 4 months of Ramadan. Now I have approximately 120 days to make up. What can I do? You understand? So she was saying that, can I just give a fidya and just exempt myself from all those fasting? So that is why we have to keep in mind that if a woman going through pregnancy, if she can fast, then the best thing is to fast in the month of Ramadan. Even if she's taking care of a child, in that situation, if you can fast, then you do fast. Only in the case that where it will be extremely difficult, then you are exempt from fasting. Can travelers skip fasting? Though the Quran says, "O ala safarin fa'iddatun min ayyamin ukhar," yes, they are technically exempt from fasting. But let me explain to you how you can fast while you're traveling, because this is a question that comes to me often. Imagine if you're flying from Dallas Fort Worth. The time for iftar is going to be roughly around 7 something, okay, 7:30, because Maghrib nowadays is close to that. Is 7, I think so. Today was 7:21, 7:22. So if this is the time, let's just say you're leaving from Dallas Fort Worth, you're traveling overseas. You leave from Dallas around like at 5 o'clock. The best thing to do is that you continue, or you have your fast. You maintain your fast even while you're traveling, and it's 2 hours of traveling, but you will break your fast when it is sunset outside. So if you're traveling east, then just keep an eye on the horizon outside. As soon as you see that it is sunset, then in the plane you break your fasting. You understand? That also means that if you're traveling, let's say even at 12 o'clock, and you have 7.5 hours left of fasting, if you can fast, then do fast. Now remember, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they travel through the deserts. Here, traveling is in luxury. You understand? You're still sitting in AC, you have a comfortable seat and so forth. You can fast, then you should fast. Now, in the case when you're coming back, this is where the complication does occur. Because if you're flying back, then what happens is that the days are going to get longer. That is why in that situation, let's just say, I'm just giving a very hypothetical here. Let's say you're traveling from Karachi, for example. You're traveling from Karachi, you're going to Dubai first. Usually there's not a big gap over there. So if you need to, you'll start your fasting and you'll come all the way to Dubai, and then in Dubai, you will break your fast. Now, will you start a new fast? No, that is where you will use the concession. You will use the concession given by Sharia. You can skip your fasting if you want, and then later on when you come back to America, you can then make it up. You can make up that fast. Some people have also asked me that what if we start Ramadan here? What if we start Ramadan here and we travel overseas? And let's just say we went to India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, or some other country, and they started 1 day later than us. And by the time I'm fasting, I have fasted. Do I do my Eid according to America, or do I do my Eid according to where I am? You will do your Eid, or you will stop fasting based on where you are going. You understand? So keep that in mind. Now, as far as qada in kafara, there's an ikhtilaf on this matter. So first of all is that if a person breaks their fast for a good reason, a valid reason, the only thing they are required to do is qada, which is later on making up a day. However, if they break their fast, and this is where the ikhtilaf comes, all the ulama, they say, without any doubt, this is a consensus, that if a person engages in intimacy with their spouse, then they have to provide a kafara. Okay, there's no question about that. The kafara is either you are freeing slaves, which is not the case nowadays. The next one is you have to fast for 60 days consecutively. Now, the ikhtilaf comes in that if a person eats or drinks something intentionally in the month of Ramadan, or they broke their fast intentionally in the month of Ramadan, or they decide that they don't want to fast at all in the month of Ramadan, in this case, Imam Malik and Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, they say, in that case, because it is the month of Ramadan, in this case, they will also have to give a kafara. The other ulama, the other two ulama, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, they say that this person is not required to give a kafara. The kafara only applies when a person is intimate with their spouse. Why? Because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the man who was intimate with his wife. He came to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, what is the kafara? The Prophet said, free the slaves. He says, I don't have that. He says, fast for 60 days. He says, I don't have the capacity to do that. He says, then to feed a certain amount of people. He says, I don't even have that. And so then he says that there's a long story. But the point is that in that hadith, there is no mention of a person just eating and drinking. And because there's no other story about a person deliberately breaking their fast by eating and drinking, that is why he has to do only a qada. Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, they say that this hadith should be sufficient, that any person who breaks their fast intentionally, then the kafara will be applied to them. Now, what happens? This is another question that's a very important question, which applies to many people. What if I have missed some fasting from last year Ramadan, and now the next Ramadan rolls around, and I have not made up those fasts? What happens to those fasts? And once again, going back to that question earlier, I said about that sister who went through 4 months. She did not fast for four Ramadans. Now she has to fast for 120 days. So the ulama, they say, and there are some ulama who say that yes, you will have to make up those fasts. Even if the next Ramadan rolls around, you have not made up those fasts, no problem. After the following year, you want to take 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you still have to make up those months, those days of Ramadan. You cannot give fidya and exempt yourself from all those fasting. You understand? You cannot give fidya and exempt yourself from all those fasting or pay for all those fasting. You will still have to fast those days of Ramadan. There are some ulama such as Imam Ahmad and Imam Shafi'i who say that in addition, because if the next year Ramadan rolls around and they have not made up their fast, as a penalty, they will have to make up those fasts, but in addition to that, they will have to give a fidya for every single day they have not fasted. This is a penalty for delaying that fast. Imam Abu Hanifa says there is no fidya that you have to give. You'll just make up the fast later on whenever you get a chance. Now, fidya, this is something also important. Who has to give fidya? The only person who gives fidya is not a sick person. It is not a person who is, for example, if a woman is going through pregnancy in this month of Ramadan, she can give fidya and exempt herself? No. She will have to make up these days later on. Okay? She will have to make up these days later on. The only people who are exempt from fasting and they'll give a fidya is someone, for example, a senior who does not possess the capacity to fast, whether it is Ramadan or beyond Ramadan, they cannot fast at all. In that case, they will be exempt from fasting. If there's a person who goes through dialysis constantly, in that case, then they could also be exempt from fasting. They can give a fidya. There are people who are diabetic. Now, of course, there are different levels of diabetes, or people who are diabetic, but there are some kind of people that they cannot get through an entire day of Ramadan without taking insulins. In that case, they will give a fidya and they will exempt themselves from fasting in the month of Ramadan. But besides that, the only people who are exempt from fasting are those who cannot fast in Ramadan and beyond Ramadan. You understand? And for those people, you will give, this year, the rule is you give $15 per day. Okay? So it comes out to be, what's the math? $450, right? So it comes out to be $450. Now, that $450 is on just a sadaqah. If you want to give that $450 to someone, you have to give that money to someone who is eligible to receive zakat. You understand? This is important. You give it to someone who is eligible to receive zakat. Now, Someone asked me the other day too, if I cannot fast, they have a legitimate reason, I cannot fast, do I give money according to here? Or if I want to send my money overseas, let's say to India, do I give rupees over there in order to give the fidya? The answer is, where you are as a person, you'll give the fidya according to their calculation. So you'll give that $450. You want to send it overseas? You will send overseas $450. You understand? So that is the rule when it comes to the fidya. So these are the questions that I was able to recollect and just remember from all the questions that are coming. If there's anyone who has questions regarding zakat, you can ask me later on. But any other questions regarding fasting, anyone has? Yes. Once again, if it's insulin, like if it is providing nutrition, then it will break your fast. Otherwise, it will not. Any other question? Yes. So even in that situation, if you start your fasting here in Dallas, as soon as you get into the plane, okay, so if you break your fast like in the plane, right? That's what you're saying. Then after that, you don't worry about your fasting until you get to your next destination. Because when you break your fast in the plane, then it's hard for you to know when does the next day start. So then if you want to apply the concession, then you apply the concession and don't fast. You understand? If it makes it easy. Now, on the other hand, if someone says, well, I'm going to keep an eye on the horizon, and if I start to notice a little sunlight, then, or I can start seeing light in the horizon, I want to start my fasting. If they want to, they can. You understand? But once again, if you want to use a concession, then you can. Yes. Yeah, so in that case, she cannot give the fidya and free herself from all the fasting. She will have to make up those 120 days. This is according to all the four schools of thought. There is no ikhtilaf on this matter. That they all, because the other, they say she will have to make up those days and give fidya. That's where the ikhtilaf is. Do you have to give the fidya or not? But there's not a single school of thought that says that you can exempt yourself. Now, I will say this. There is a shadh opinion. But it's a very rare opinion. And it does not come from any of the four schools of thought. It comes from some Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum. The reason I call it a shadh and rare opinion is because the sanad of that fatwa all the way to the Sahaba is also broken. You understand? But the opinion that has been documented in some books is that you can give the fidya and exempt, like in that case of that sister, she'll give the fidya and free herself from all those fasting. But once again, that's a shadh and rare opinion. And the sanad to that fatwa, to the Sahaba, is also a broken sanad. So that's why it is not accepted by any of the ulama. Yeah. Yes. So I would say that for a child, what is the obligatory age? I would say that when the time comes that when they can start they can start absorbing the or endure the challenge of fasting. So I would say that when it comes to children, you try to have them fast for like perhaps a day or on the weekend. Make them go through the training and train them, and then once you know that they are trained, then start them. I'll be honest, with my daughter, I got her started going. I think she fasted the entire month of Ramadan when she was probably when she was in second grade. She fasted the entire month of Ramadan. She did it. So, I mean, she was like, give her some incentives also, If you want to give an iPhone, that's your choice, But you have to give some incentive, but mashallah, she fasted. Me and my wife, we gave her the encouragement and she fasted, mashallah, Yeah. Yes. My question to you is that why would it not be allowed? What's wrong with it? Stimulants will not break the fast in that sense. So because it's something that's sitting on the outside, it's not providing any kind of nutrition value. It can help you stay away from it. It does not break it. Yeah. You're not injecting it. You're not. It's sitting on you, okay, but it's not doing anything else. Huh? Absorbing what? Okay, if it's okay, then okay, I did not read that about that. If it's a nicotine patch, because I read that it's just. No, that will break your fast. That will break your fast, yeah. That you put it inside, that will break your fast. I mean, once again, about the nicotine patches, I read it. I was doing some research about this. According to majority of the ulama, it would not break the fast. But once again, there are some ulama who say that it will break the fast. So stay away from it is better. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions? Fasting without suhoor, you keep on fasting. Tough luck, you did not wake up. Yeah, go to sleep early at night. Okay, other questions? Okay, khair inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما